Welcome, Eagles, to another episode of TradCatNight Radio. I am Eric Ajewski, founder and owner of TradCatNight, the most viewed and followed traditional Catholic website worldwide, ranked #1 in the world as it relates to traditional Catholicism by Alexa, and now top 20,000 website, folks. So I appreciate you all circulating our information. I appreciate the prayers, the lovely messages that are coming through. I appreciate all those alternative news networks that are now currently picking up my article and radio shows, Veterans Today being one of them, and we've got another blockbuster talk for you today. I have, for the first time here on TradCatNight, we're going to be holding a three-way conversation, and by God's grace, I don't know how I managed to do it because I don't claim to be a computer expert. We managed to get both Elana Freeland on, who has already been on TradCatNight discussing HAARP and chemtrails, and we had a blockbuster talk a few months ago. But then I'm going to be bringing on Billy Hayes, who is otherwise known as the HAARP Man. And boy, does he have a background. I actually, instead of just introducing you, Billy, what I would like you to do is to actually introduce yourself, if you could, because your background is just, it's just truly something that I don't think I could put into words in just a sentence or two. And I know you have been out there talking on alternative news media and on Facebook, and I want you to basically tell us more about yourself. But today's title for the talk, folks, is going to be Space Fence Lockdown. And so let's just, without any further ado, hand it over to Billy Hayes. Billy, why don't you tell a little bit more about yourself and tell us how you got involved with the unmasking of some of these programs, HAARP, and what we're seeing now in the skies with chemtrail.
Actually, I'm going to let Elana do the intro on that, okay?
Oh, sure. Go ahead, Elana. Go ahead, Elana. Are you there?
She's muted.
I too am not an expert at this. Yes, I'll do the intro for his early time, and then Billy, you come in for your professional background if you need to. So Billy is an MK Ultra survivor. I did many years of research on MK Ultra and know many victims and thrivers and survivors from that horrible CIA program that ran. People think it only ran from the end of World War II to 1973, but it actually has become electromagnetic and is running still. But Billy was raised under really what we would consider dire conditions while his programming was going on, and he was primarily programmed in electromagnetics, radiation, so that he could do what he has done and become a tower erector. He is the man who worked on the HAARP installation up in Gakona, Alaska, that has a tremendous acronym and has been spoken of many thousands of times on radio and in articles. So Billy he's the close-up guy who knows this tech inside and out, and I play the big picture role because Billy has tutored me, especially for the Space Fence book. We met after I was on Coast to Coast back when my book Chemtrails, HAARP, and the Full Spectrum Dominance came out. And I came off the air and there were 300 Facebook requests. And Billy was one of them, and he has been invaluable to me, as you can imagine.
Now, you had mentioned that Billy was a tower erector. We're talking cell towers now? Is that, do I understand that correctly?
Billy, you want to go there?
I no longer work. I'm unable to. I'm disabled due to all the problems I have with my past giving me health problems. I've got tumors, I've got lesions, I've got cysts on my brain from all the heavy electronics I've worked on. In fact, my biggest problem is when certain signals are resonated into my body, I have seizures down to the point that I've had a full heart arrest. Due to.
Well, yeah, because I was just about to ask, just in more general, the whole cell tower connection. I know I had sent some information to Elana way back when on this character that I believe is going to arrive on the scene, and the world will pitch him as the savior of the world. And apparently they have these weapons of God system where they can kind of telepathically, quote unquote, embed these messages into your brain. And I think somehow cell towers are kind of integrated with that. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. Do you think that's just too conspiratorial of talk, or
No, you're absolutely right. It is part of the function of included into the space fence system.
Unbelievable. Now, Elana, I don't know where you want to start in terms of, since the last we talked about chemtrails. I know, as I mentioned, we did that video. It got really good feedback. I continue to see these chemtrails on a daily basis out here in the Ohio Valley area. Are there more and more people waking up to the reality that, man is trying to play God and manipulate this level? Maybe you can kind of connect this into the ionospheric heater technology, which I know you cover so extensively in your work.
Right, and I think it is good, before we discuss the space fence, which in a way is the culmination of having ionized the atmosphere by all the ionospheric heater experiments that were run when HAARP was calibrated at a tremendous power and pumping energy into the ionosphere, bubbling it out into space, and drawing our atmosphere up into that so that it could be ionized. And now that's a done deal. HAARP actually shut down in 2013 and is now reopening, supposedly only for University of Alaska Fairbanks experiments, research, etc. One wonders. And Billy would know about that because he still has contacts in that area. But I think what's important for people to realize is, now that our atmosphere is ionized, all sorts of military operations can go forward. And one of them is the space fence, which actually was born back in the SDI days, the Strategic Defense Initiative days of Reagan, Bush, and Cheney in 1983 and on. At about 1987, Bernard Eastland's patent was put into action, and the tower up in Gakona, Alaska, was built. This is a phased array antenna system for the experiments that they wanted to run. And Billy was the team leader for that. And you may have something. Billy, what I'd like you to talk about is how they've recalibrated HAARP and how it's part of a very large world system now that is completely integrated into the space fence.
Okay, HAARP went down in 2013, as you mentioned, right after my wife died. It has since been turned over to the University of Alaska Fairbanks. Before it was taken over, the Air Force came out and took out all the tubes and most of the tuning capability of the system in Gakona, making it unusable, period. Gakona was taken over by UAF, and they are in the process now of trying to put the tubes back in and tune up the system to the new FCC regulated frequencies that are being assigned to it. It will not be the same HAARP as it was before. In doing so,
yeah, go ahead.
In doing so, the Air Force has re-upped an old challenge of its own called the space fence, which was, in the old days, was nothing more than covering outer space area around the world of space junk and incoming asteroids and so forth that were considered to be dangerous to the entry of the Earth. It has now been changed. It was let down the same time HAARP was let off in 2013. It reopened and was under the guise of being reinitiated into digital tracings of, help me out.
What do you mean, the digital calibrating?
Right. In doing so, it became part of the new digital spectrum. And in 14 different service levels. And that's what they're working on right now. Is they're at Station 4 at this moment. They have 10 more stations to go to in pursuing getting this whole system on. But they are back into where they can watch everything on this earth, not just outer space. They are now resonating with the inner atmosphere due to the components being put up by chemtrails, reionizing a lower atmosphere to act as the same as the old ionosphere, creating a higher frequency band with shorter range, but the capability of skipping more times around the world to maintain communication. Go ahead.
Right, and the communications is let's define that. That means military standard of C4, command, control, communications, and cyber warfare. Now that has to do with the title of my last book, The Full Spectrum Dominance. As I explained, I think on the show before, Eric, the doctrine of full spectrum dominance is a military doctrine, and it doesn't just mean full spectrum as per society and all people on Earth being under surveillance and able to be accessed in whatever way they see fit. It also means full spectrum dominance as to the electromagnetic spectrum, all the way from radio waves to gamma rays. So this is very big and very important. And I think if that does enough for the HARP and chemtrails, and Billy did hit on a very important point, remember that these chemical trails being laid by jets, whether you believe that they are being developed as compounds in the combustion chamber of the jet engines flying, and that would be military and commercial jets, or you believe that there are additional tanks, pylons on the wings, etc. However you look at it, we are being chemicalized, and part of that is heavy metals. These are conductive metals because that's what's needed to keep ionizing, to keep those electrons popping in the lower atmosphere for all these military operations, especially now the space fence. And then we need to redefine what Billy means by surveillance. It isn't just that they're going to be looking at us, listening to us, and analyzing that data. They have released billions of nano-sized sensors into the environment, and we have breathed those in. So what we're talking, along with microprocessors at the nano level, microprocessors being tiny computers, what that means is that remotely they can be sucking information out of us that the sensors are perceiving, and they can be reprogramming whatever we have breathed in by the microprocessors. Do you see our situation now?
Yeah, I was just about to ask you about that. I mean, it totally sounds like mind control here. I mean, I've had other guests on which imply kind of the same tone or the same line of thought there. So outside of the already health issues that we know about from all of these chemicals coming down, it seems like there is a plan in place to more or less mind control the population. Again, I keep drawing in this Maitreya character. I'll allow you to comment both on that if you would like, the whole mind control aspect of it. But then I wanted to get into, as a follow-up question to you both, if you have looked into this research tying this particular area into Project Bluebeam. I have heard certain researchers indicate that they're using chemtrails to kind of stage the upper atmosphere for a phony alien invasion with these holographic images. I wanted to see if any of your research touched upon that. I mean, you could feel free to disagree with that. I was just curious if that is. Go ahead, but I'll allow both of you to answer both of that. The first part, the mind control aspect, and then two, Project Bluebeam tie-ins, maybe some sort of phony alien invasion coming.
Well, the mind control can be easily summed up to say that's really peanuts. Yes, of course, they can pulse the frequencies right now, and they have probably been doing it for at least a decade to quell populations, to stir population anger, to just do any emotional field that they want in a broad population, and that's not including the individual targeting that goes on via some of the ground instruments like the cell towers. But more important, and in a way, I don't want to use the word more important, but no, it's much more important. They are heading toward a transhumanist future.
Yeah.
And this is why we're breathing all this in, why it's in our bloodstream, why now they can actually shred our DNA as we go through the with the terahertz waves, tiny waves, as we go through airport TSA terminals. They are experimenting, running probably thousands and thousands of experiments on human beings, on populations with no consent. Within what is in mind is the future, a cyborg future, a future in which BCI, brain-computer interface, is a done deal. There may be immortality for some of the very rich elites that they would call immortality. I certainly would not, and nor would you, Eric, call it immortality. Right. It would simply be lifting someone else's brain memories and essence and implanting it in someone else. So these are very Frankensteinian times, but it's being done very quietly. It's being done with scattered all over the place so that people don't realize this is all one big event happening, that we, I feel, are fortunate to live in this time, to be not just guardians, which is important, but witnesses to this transitional period into from a merely electromagnetic age to what they consider to be their vision of a space age. So that covers the mind control. Yes, that's a done deal. There's no question about that. And that can be done so easily with people who are so hypnotic now from years of television and years of waiting for authority figures to tell them what is true and what isn't. Fortunately now, you asked, I think, are people changing? Are people learning? Yes, they are. Yes, there are many people coming awake, as I see on Facebook. And Billy's site is up, my site is up. We're handling thousands of people coming through who are at the elementary stage, who are beyond the elementary stage. But all of this has to do with this technology, as does Bluebeam. Billy, what do you want to say there?
You said it all.
I did not.
Yeah, and that's just it. That's kind of scary to think about how it kind of ties into an overall larger, big picture of a eugenics program here. The altering of, our genes without us, genetics without us maybe even knowing about it. And there's some concern, obviously, as we're seeing a cashless society being formed, people talking about the mark of the beast and how that may potentially change genetics. I mean, we're living in very, very unique times, to say the least. So what about in terms of Project Bluebeam? Again, if this is not an area you don't want to cover, I was just kind of curious because I had, my own research seen that these certain elements that they're putting up there, including barium, that it's basically staging for a large projector screen, if you will. Wherein I know they're already doing it. I've seen these, these false crosses in the sky. I've seen, false kind of resemblances of Jesus's face in the sky. I mean, there's a lot of bizarre things happening in the sky that I think kind of tie in from our perspective of these kind of lying signs and end time wonders, if you will, that I think that this phony savior will capitalize on.
Well, I can't speak to the phony savior, but I can say that because the atmosphere is ionized, it's filled with plasma now. This cloud cover that we see, this cirrus cloud cover that occurs after jets pass, and you see the chemical trails filtering out over the sky, what previously much more blue sky, that's all, that can be made into plasma shapes very easily now. And a holograph can only seem much more real if you have that sort of a plasma substance to play your projection onto, like a screen, and it is very much like a screen up there. And so when people jump to the idea of either apocalyptic or ET, aliens. They've skipped a lot of steps there, and Billy and I we've kind of lost patience with that. Unless people are willing to do the kind of work that we do in step by step, looking at the technology, realizing what plasma is, how it can be sculpted. It can be sculpted into a shape. I mean, people, particularly down in the Southern Hemisphere, which is where I think they experiment a lot with this technology and other technologies, because Northern Hemisphere people tend to not believe what people see in the Southern Hemisphere. It's kind of very strange to me. But seeing whole clouds sitting on the land, I mean, a big fat cloud just sitting there, not like fog, but a really big fat cloud alone. I mean, that's a plasma entity that has been created somehow. And I think that's what's exciting and maybe scary at first, but exciting to me. What will we see in the sky next? The meteors falling. Are those really meteors? I highly doubt it, because many weapons are being experimented with above. But one of the things, Eric, I know we have limited time, so I want to make sure we get to it. Billy, we need to draw the line between the chemicals that are being laid in the chemical trails above us and the space fence and how it's being created around the equator. Can we concentrate on that for a little while?
Okay, let's put it this way. Basically speaking, we've been covering chemtrails in the atmosphere, which is no more than creating an ionized complex that can create the plasma effect within the atmosphere without having all the power, and being able to utilize higher frequencies instead of the very, very low frequency ULF frequencies that they had to use for HARP. And in doing so, they found out that the rockets, all the solid boost rockets that they launched with a nanothermite, super nanothermite burn. This is the same components that are within the chemtrails, including the barium and the lithium and the aluminum oxides. By propelling this stuff into space, the plume follows the booster rocket into space. It is contaminating the outer portion of the realm beyond the ionosphere, making also a layer atmosphere, the space sphere, the ionosphere,
near Earth orbit,
multiple envelopes around the Earth. What's happening now is these bands are developing around the Earth with centrifugal force from the force and to the components being put in outer space, and they are starting to pull together at the equator, developing rings around the Earth. Proposed by not too long ago, NASA even, they kind of suggested what they were doing, and you want to take that, Elana?
What, the articles I just sent you today?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, where there is, as we go along, it's important for listeners to realize that NASA, first of all, I don't think NASA is what it says it is.
I agree.
I think it's basically a PR agent for the people who are setting up these systems, these cosmic systems around the Earth, and the chemical trails, etc. They're all invested in it. And I remember, I think it was last year, there were some amazing photographs that a young, I believe she was Chinese, physicist took in Australia of plasma tubes around the Earth, and they were sort of a pale yellow and very much like a dune-like serpent-looking, all of them. So the plasma physics is the name of the game now. And as they keep doing things, and first of all, getting the lower atmosphere set up so that they have total control down here through weather warfare or weather engineering, electromagnetic operations, military operations, surveillance operations, biological operations, all of that had to be done here first. Now they're bumping their way up above the planet, and they're forming their own plasma tubes, as these showed, and now they're discovering, and the way they contextualize it is really interesting. And I need to read those articles I sent Billy more deeply. They're contextualizing it like, wow, look what we found out here. Another radiation belt besides the Van Allen belt. Wow, what a surprise. So you have to read this with the context of the space fence being formed around the equator, very similar to Saturn's rings. I mean, I love how Billy says it. He says it's like a CD. Billy, explain what that means.
What this means is, in developing rings around the Earth, like the Saturn, rings around Saturn, these are just like a CD or a DVD. It's a plate that's rotating at a specific speed that if you fire small lasers into it, you can have the same components as you do on recording and playback of a CD. It also has all the components for developing itself with downloads of applications to make it act as a full computer.
Can you believe that, Eric? Now, what does that do to your Project Bluebeam? I mean, this is like having all your movies stored on your DVD drive. And so from there, let's talk about a little bit, Billy, about one of their other objectives, planetary or solar system communications. I mean, Saturn has the rings, we have the rings. What does that mean?
Okay, if you remember, not back in the early days, they were bouncing signals off the moon. When HARP came into position and was activated, some of the challenges were they wanted to bounce HARP off the moon, which they did during the ringing the bell. They shot the signals up, the pulses up. It would hit like a hammer, hit the moon, shake the moon at a specific vibration, and the reflections would come back just like sonar does. This would give them a reading of what was in the ground, on the ground, and underneath the ground.
Interesting.
Otherwise, they were mapping the moon with what they call tomography. Same thing, they indicated what they wanted to do to the Earth. But they found out they could do it to the moon. The next project was, let's try to ring Saturn, which they have, but they're not talking about that.
Now, I'm glad, Elana, you had mentioned NASA before, because I wanted to get both of your takes on NASA. I totally agree with all the statements that you made concerning it. But as I'm sitting here, some of the things that we cover here at TradCatNight and some of the questions that keep pouring into this website, and maybe both of you can speak to this about, are these apocalyptic, very bizarre noises we're hearing in the air. Some people suggest this project.
Absolutely.
Yeah, let's talk about this a little bit. Feel free to go whatever direction you'd like, but we're hearing these noises in the air. People, have their own different suggestions. I want to get your both of your outtakes on what are these noises that we're hearing in the air that are circulating in viral videos on YouTube.
Let me simplify it. Remember the old crystal radios that you used to play with when you were a little boy? You could take a crystal or a piece of lead across a razor blade with a long antenna and a set of earphones, and you could hear the AM. Well, this is called piezoidal effect. This acts as a detector. Anytime you have RF, you can do this with any crystal that is tunable or resonant to certain frequencies. The whole Earth is full of crystals. Therefore, when you bounce a heavy signal back to the Earth, it hits these crystals within the mantle of the Earth and acts as a detector, developing audible sounds.
Interesting.
That's right. Yeah, and it's not even an opinion. It's just simply a fact that all the electromagnetic experiments that are being done in this now plasmaized environment, including tomography, are producing weird sounds. Like the one I liked was it Gabriel's trumpet, or There's all different
Yeah.
and so to use the word apocalyptic is a little premature for the sounds. But on the other hand, could this technology eventually be apocalyptic? Oh yes,
Oh
it
yes.
definitely
Oh
could.
yes. Just take a look at some of the noises that you can find on the internet that they've heard. They're fear uh, components. The people hear these things and don't understand what they are,
Sure.
and they start hiding their children. They start put them in. Pretty soon we're going to have the aliens are coming. Like what was his name? Uh,
Well, Reagan
you know.
even mentioned
Oh,
that. There's a
Velikovsky?
Oh
Who do you
no.
mean?
The gentleman that did the end of the earth, or the aliens are coming on the radio back in the 40s.
Oh, Orson Welles.
Right.
Yeah,
well,
right.
well, you even had Ronald Reagan in his speech, talking about how an outside alien force might come about. I mean, there's a lot of people who have blown the horn on this, such as William Cooper, and so yeah, I agree with you. I think we're kind of evolving into that kind of territory. I mean, who knows if they actually pull that card or not? If you don't have any more comments in an area, another area or another question that comes to mind too, and we'll kind of just label this the dying planet. Every day I kind of go on the alternative news sites and you see, tens of thousands of fish, dead in this one Asian sea. You're seeing massive whales being beached, just dying cattle everywhere in tens of thousands. Caribou the other day, I think it was in Canada. How does what we're talking about today tie in with this? I mean, birds falling out of the sky. I mean, are we talking like EMFs here? I mean,
Yes.
what are we talking here?
We're talking in the ocean, we're talking ultrasound and infrasound experiments by the U.S. Navy. And in the air, we're talking, electromagnetics. I get very frustrated when people jump to apocalyptic conclusions, which to me is just a sign of the ignorance they have of just the technology. And that's why I've written now 2 books. Eric, I did not plan to spend 4 or 5 years of my life on this. Believe me, I had some other things in mind. But I'm so glad that I have, because if I were to say what is the most crucial issue on the planet now, and it includes the dying earth, as you're saying. I mean, whole forests in California are dying. It is this technology that we must all learn. How many people take any science or study any science? No, there's after high school. They're sitting in front of the boob tube, having their IQ lowered, while they could be studying the time that we live in. Nothing is more precious than the opportunity to study the time we're living in while we're living in it. And I stress that to people. It isn't simply, oh, well, Elana Freeland, she's intellectual, she can do these things. I'll just listen to what she says. Well, it's okay to listen when you begin, but you must begin to study. We live in a technological era. This is an electromagnetic era. If people are so visual that they can only do things in film, I highly recommend the Electric Universe series. And what's the other one, the name of it? But it has to do with the electric universe, to really catch up on how this is not an Einsteinian universe. It is very different from what Einstein presented, because Einstein was establishment and he had to do what he was told. A lot has happened in the last 50 years that apparently our masters of the universe, who want to take everything over here, feel we don't need to know. We just need to fork out the money so they can fulfill their dreams. Well, I'm not a proponent of that philosophy. I think everybody can learn, everybody can study a bit. They can learn to dialogue and debate each other and turn off the television. If I were to say one thing, please, I've never even owned one of those things. Please turn it off.
Now, Billy, maybe as a follow-up, you can add to this again. We unmask how these globalists are trying to quote unquote unite humanity. They're through Agenda 21, they're using quote unquote environmentalism as a way to fearmonger the people into kind of coming together. Get all the nations together. Ultimately, we need a one world government, a one world economic system, a one world religious structure. Talk to us a little bit, just more in general, about how this is affecting our weather. I know many scientists are now claiming that we might be entering a new ice age. So maybe explain in layman's terms how, with this ionospheric heater technology, is that possible to bring about some sort of new ice age? You almost kind of think it would be the opposite. Maybe break this down a little bit further in layman's terms, what we're seeing with all the weather pattern changes. I mean, the other day we're seeing in certain areas, Hawaii getting snow out in Saudi Arabia, just really bizarre weather. And I'm sure most of us know who listen to this radio show that man is trying to play God and trying to control these areas. But maybe expound upon that a little bit, Billy.
Absolutely. Yes, it was the intent of HARP in the very beginning to create situations and devise experiments to maintain control of certain weather systems, especially the jet stream. And in doing so, they have been able to turn the jet stream into positions and create fronts along that jet stream and anchor it in certain places where it would fulcrum on certain points on this earth to give manipulation of all weather systems. In doing so,
go ahead.
In doing so, they have been able to create disasters of floods, of areas without water for months and months and months, move in snowstorms, create hurricanes, move hurricanes. Yeah, it's happening. They've been doing this since Katrina. The very most specific one was Sandy, where it was very visible what they were doing.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I was thinking about. Famines even out in California. Again, kind of like a Mad Max scenario. Have you guys seen that latest movie? I don't, when I watch movies, I don't advocate it for entertainment. I kind of see what the globalists are pushing. And in this movie, it's basically this more Antichrist type figure who is in control of the water. And, all the people had to go running towards him. So if man has all this technology and they literally can create, floods, they can create a famine in a certain area, it kind of sets up for disaster for humanity where they might have to go to the central figure, if you will, to go and actually get water. And so I've always just said, this character that I believe is about to arrive onto the scene, I call him the geoengineering wizard. And he's got all these puppets around him, basically. So maybe we could talk a little bit about that. I definitely want to get into Elana's book. I want to allow for her to talk about this a little bit. I'm pretty sure you finished it in October, and you said it might be published in September 2017.
Yes, I finished the Space Fence book. Again, kudos to Billy for leading the blind through an amazing path of obstacles, of understanding how vast this Space Fence system is. Because you understand, it will be AI run, no question. Artificial intelligence. And I don't know if your listeners have been paying attention. Oh, well, you've had Anthony Patch on, haven't you, Eric?
Yeah, I've had him on. I'm going to have him on again in about a week or two, I think.
Okay, great. Because Anthony is the one who clued me into CERN's relationship to the D-Wave adiabatic quantum computer. And when you talk about the Antichrist, or as you call him, the super geoengineer, or whatever you call him, I like that. What might be possible is that D-Wave computer certainly haunts me with its I think it's one of its creators stood by it with great adoration in a YouTube, and said that it was like the altar of an alien god. And I must admit that got my attention. So the fact that they're using the D-Wave at various crucial points, Google, the Lockheed Martin, CERN, that's where I would look if I wanted to understand how that could be being brought in to a world which their greatest hope is, yeah, sure, let the forest die, let nature die back. We've got the genetics anyway, we can recreate it. And it'll be our creation. This is our creation. This is our Earth. They're cutting us off from the stars, from the upper worlds, whereby at least I gain great strength and faith. So there is definitely a concerted effort. This is not all just happening on an invisible spiritual level. This is real people making real decisions about what they're going to serve. And as Bobby Dylan sang years ago, everybody got to serve somebody. There is no neutrality on this planet. So I pay close attention to all this technology as much as I can fathom, as much as I can understand how it's playing into a grand intent of throwing over nature and the human being. That's really how I see it.
Now, Billy, I wanted to allow you to comment on this. Well, first and foremost, what do we see on the horizon for 2017? Is there something on your radar, Billy, that most of us are missing? Again, I would simply say I have a more novice level. I mean, certainly not an expert in this area. I'm affluent in the area, but certainly don't have the knowledge that you two have. You know, is there something on your radar that, no pun intended, that we're not seeing as, you know, your everyday person? You know, I got a video the other day, I didn't mention this to you, from someone who was putting out a warning, apparently, a very popular YouTube channel, in relation to a geoengineering manufactured megaquake out on the West Coast. Apparently, it might happen December 15th, 16th, but some HAARP people are on the West Coast, I forget what area, and potentially, I'm not even suggesting that this is the case, but it's picking up great steam, you know, on the internet. I'm not sure if you're aware of that, but more or less, I mean, what do you see arising here on 2017? Should we just look for a continued trend of earthquakes? I mean, that's an area that we didn't really talk about yet, is how through HAARP and these technologies, they can actually manufacture earthquakes as well.
Well, that and the polar change, too, is part of the indoctrination that's going on.
Yeah. So
go ahead, Billy. Go, say more.
Okay. The reaction there over the past history before man, there's been multiple changes of the polar regions, swapping ends, end for end. Each time it does it, it gives a purge to move the Earth's axis slightly, slowly. But this is in the within 217 of seeing this happen again. And part of that is due to the differentiation in the flux fields of the magnetosphere being changed with the polar movements. And in doing so, everything on this Earth is going to change. Our water levels are going to change. We will see the initiation of oceans starting to flood the land masses because of the bulge. The center of the equator of the Earth is something like 495 feet more than the polar regions. We don't have an absolutely round Earth. There's a difference of circumference around the equator than there is from pole to pole.
Right.
And that's going to change. That movement is going to cause tidal waves and stuff like that, tsunamis, plus changes in the Earth's mantle. As your magnetic fields change, there's different pressures going to happen to the mantle of the Earth. There are going to be different changes in the vibrations of the Earth. The so-called Schumann frequencies have constantly been changing over the last 4 decades due to all the electronics that have been presented.
Right.
So we're in a contour of seeing within the next half a decade massive changes around us.
Yeah, I think I mentioned this before to Elana. You know, when studying this kind of figure I think is going to arrive on the scene, he's got this day of declaration where it seems quite evident that he's going to be able to control emotions, if you will. They call it the second day of Pentecost, where he kind of arrives on the scene and everyone's just kind of in awe. And I think this factors into that, as Elana was pointing out, via this nanotechnology. Certainly a lot of things to consider. Again, as Elana has suggested, you got to take this thing piece by piece. Again, I do not claim to be an expert in this area, and that's why I bring on people such as Elana and Billy Hayes, and also Anthony Patch, who we'll have on here in a week or two. Let's try to do this again here in the future. But as a part of my program, I like to give the last few minutes to do some, allow my guests to do some shameless self-promotion. Where can they find your website, Elana? Where can they find your places of interest, Billy? I mean, I think you have a Facebook page, but I try to let people stay connected to my guests, so they're following their information that they're putting out there. So why don't you give out your information here, and we'll give it a close.
All right. Okay, people can come to my Facebook. I haven't had time to develop a website, though I'm going to make the attempt soon. Facebook would be Elana Freeland, Chemtrails, HARP, and this full spectrum. That would be the closed group that you need to ask my permission to join. That's where I have almost 3,000 members, and I'm very impressed with how everyone behaves themselves and brings new information, and I'm really encouraged by that. And then as for the Chemtrails, HARP, and the Full Spectrum Dominance of Planet Earth book, Amazon will, you can get it at Amazon.
Okay, Billy.
I do not maintain a web page, but I do maintain contacts on Facebook as Billy Hayes 67548. I do not hide from the world.
There you go.
Good.
Yeah,
good,
well,
good.
we need your information, obviously. I mean, there's so much to this puzzle that we're all just trying to piece together. Again, I mean, there's probably certain elements that you haven't heard that I try to present to people, and then obviously certain things that I haven't heard from you guys. And I think we kind of are all on the same page when we have a group, and however you want to label them, who are trying to control and manipulate this planet on every level. It's certainly not just weather, but it's on every area of life, societal, whether it's economically, politically, and but it's interesting. Very, very interesting stuff today. Elana Freeland and Billy Hayes. Wow. Look for, again, Anthony Patch to come on here in the next few weeks, and we are going to try to pick up on this topic maybe in the next few months as more and more of these events are occurring. Of course, we had these massive quakes, swarm of quakes out in the Solomon Islands, and we had on the West Coast. They're now warning of a mega quake out there on the West Coast. So very, very interesting times, my good friends. I appreciate you all tuning in today. Continue to keep me in prayer. And until next time, my good friends, stay safe and God bless.